I think the answers that have been given, the usual answers that we hear when government gives answers to, lack of facilities, lack of officers, lack of funding. These are answers which...
Honorable Harrow, you are debating.
Okay, sir.
I gave you an opportunity to ask a supplementary if you feel your question was not sufficiently answered.
So what the Honorable Cabinet Secretary mentioned that some of the initiatives come from the MPs. And I have the benefit of having a copy of his written answer. And he had mentioned of partnership between the Member of Parliament and the national government offices on the ground. I would want to know what would that partnership look like? How does it manifest itself? Because we would really want to initiate those initiatives and see what that partnership can do to help our people on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Rindikiri, one question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the PS for the confidence he has answered our questions, but I have a problem, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the issuance of passports. There are some questions that I think that form need to be reviewed, particularly on the fathers, mothers, and even the children, some of who could be deceased. I don't see the relevance for that. Two, there is so many immigrants who have come to this country purporting to be experts in various fields. They have been given permit to work in Kenya. Even some of them have no technical expertise, taking jobs for Kenyans who are even very qualified. What is this that the ministry is doing to ensure that we don't have hawkers coming here purporting to be expert in various fields? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Julius Sunguli. 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask the Minister to confirm whether the answer he gave about birth certificates also applies to forms for registration of persons. Because as far as Kilgoris is concerned, there has been no fresh registrations of persons for nearly 6 months now, and the reason being that there are no forms. What is the minister going to do to ensure that those forms are available? And attached to that, Mr. Speaker, if the minister could confirm, could explain what he means by operationalizing new administrative areas when in fact it is members of parliament through CDF who build these facilities. All he does is to post people there. And could he remove Kilgoris from, Transmara West district from those districts that require vetting, because we do not border any international, we don't have an international border. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kilome.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Mine is just very brief, and this one goes direct to the CS. I had a serious meeting with the CS for the last, around 60 days, and they promised me that this is Kilome constituency, CS. You promised me I will get a registrar in my constituency because I already have the office. So I would just want to make a follow-up on the same. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Last on this, Johanna Ngeno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to congratulate the CS for the questions and answers he has made. Mr. Speaker, mine is just almost on the same issue of registration centers. Mr. Speaker, I would wish the CS to consider whether in those areas where there are no registration centers, to make mobile registration so that those people who cannot, or by the time the government puts money to build offices and send officers there, people should be able to access those particular registration centers. Speaker, and secondly...
One at a time.
Speaker, secondly, on the question of boundaries, areas that are bordering international countries, where we have serious vetting and actually denying people to get their IDs. Can they also remove Wadikir from that list of constituencies which are bordering either Tanzania or other countries? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Can we stop here on this question, members? Yes, Minister, answer those supplementaries.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the last issue, which has been raised by a member for Emurodikil and another member earlier on, the government takes the view and has decided that vetting is a discriminative process which exposes citizens from certain parts of the country to unduly difficult procedures. Of course, the reason why this policy has been there is for good reasons. It's for our national security. Where you have large threats, then you need to be a bit careful so that you minimize security threats through the registration of our citizens. However, we have come up with a modality of ensuring that all critical documents from passports, IDs, birth certificates, all critical documents must be supplied within 21 days, irrespective of where the applicants come from. Where possible, they can come out in 3 days, in 7 days, in 10 days, but no Kenyan should wait for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years to get an ID or a passport simply because they come from a certain part of the country. Therefore, within the next 3 months, the policy of vetting in all the citizen registration services will be abolished and replaced with a new way of ensuring that all registration documents are achieved by all Kenyans within a maximum of 21 days. Honorable Speaker, the issue of vetting, actually, I was in Moyale and I came across Kenyan youths who had been waiting for IDs for 3 years and 2 months. About 10 young people from Moyale. They applied when they were 18, now they are 21, and they are still waiting. Why? Vetting. We are still, NIS and other institutions are still verifying certain things. This is unacceptable. We are going to abolish that. Honorable Speaker, the member for Kilome, it is true, I agree, Honorable Speaker, I committed to the member who came to my office that we will post a civil registration officer there, but I asked him to support, and that also ties with the question the member asked, what kind of support is this the CS is talking between the national government and CDF? Where the member through CDF is able to obtain consent to build the office, then we give staff and of course the resources that are tied to making sure the office is operational. And that is what we are calling operationalization for the member for Kilgoris. Because even if it's built by CDF, CDF is also public money, okay? But the unit is not operational because the Ministry of Interior must post an officer and give that officer money in the budget to run the office. You can build an office and it's not operational because, one, there is no staff, or you have staff who have no budget to run the office. Honorable Speaker, therefore, in response to the member for Emurodikil, member for Kilgoris, and other members, vetting will not only be abolished in those constituencies, but across the country. And for the member for Kilome, now that the office is complete, I will post a civil registrar in Kilome on Monday. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Joseph Gitari, You have two questions in a row. Minister, indulge him to ask both at the same time. They seem to be related to security issues. So ask question 106 and 107.
Together.
Together.
Thank you, Speaker. I wish to ask question 106 of 2023, where I'm asking the Cabinet Secretary.
Minister, note that there are two questions coming at the same time.
Number one, clarify whether occurrence book numbers OB number 10-11-01-2022 at 18:05 hours and 07/9/05/2022 at 11:25 hours reported at Kagumo Police Station, and OB number 14/24/9/2022 and OB number 09/10/12/2021 reported at Kavonge Police Post in the name of one Laban Rukenya Munene related to the same person. Number two, explain under what circumstances did the above mentioned person with all the four entries in the occurrence book has only been arrested once and failed to attend court for case number 3356/22 despite having a warrant of arrest in his name. Number three, state the reason as to why the said person was released from Kagumo Police Station in September 2022 despite having serious pending cases against him. Mr. Speaker, I also want to ask question 107/2023, whereby I'm asking the Cabinet Secretary to explain the measures the Ministry has instituted to address the emergence of criminal gangs and groups with terror rings affiliated to terror groups in the country, including actions being taken against those that are facilitating with rings or sponsoring such groups. Number two, describe the strategies the ministry has put in place to deal with the emergence of criminal gangs in major towns of Nakuru, Nairobi, Mombasa, and other towns, in particular criminal gangs known as Wechame militia group that is terrorizing residents in Kagumo town in Kirinyaga Central. Number three, explain the security measure that the minister has put in place to address rampant insecurity incidences in Kirogoya town, especially along Medingaere Road and Kemore area. I submit.
Minister, I think those are related questions from the same area, and we can be done in 20 minutes on this.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the question raised by the member for Kirogoya Central regarding the suspect Laban Rukenya Munene, I would like to respond as follows. That yes, the four entries to the OB at Kagumo Police Post and Kabonde Police Post relate to one person, namely Laban Rukenya Munene. This is a suspect of crime who is awaiting prosecution before the Baricho law courts and is accused of stealing on various dates. He stole from a victim called Mary Karua Nagashoki, twice actually. On a third occasion, the same Rukenya, the same Munene stole from Mr. John Rukenya, and on another occasion he stole from Miss Jemima Wangeshi. The suspect was arrested on 3rd of April 2022 and arraigned before the Baricho Law Court under criminal case number 356 of 2022. However, the suspect was released by court on bail. The suspect subsequently jumped bail and is on the run. And the government and the prosecution and security agencies have no control over who the court gives bail or not. So the prosecution tried to oppose the granting of bail, but the court ruled against the prosecution. The bail was granted, and when the suspect was admitted to bail, he jumped bail and is now on the run. The prosecution went back to court and obtained a warrant of arrest, and we are still looking for this suspect. The security agencies are yet to track him down, but I want to assure the member for Kirinyaga Central and the House that criminal investigations, criminal matters are never closed, and therefore we are actively looking for these suspects with a view to arresting them in line with the arrest warrants in our possession, and also to produce them in court for prosecution. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the next question from the same member, parliamentary question number 107 of 2023, I would like to respond as follows. That sometimes at the middle of last year, there was an increasing incidents. There were increasing incidents of urban crime. The most affected urban center was Nairobi. And by the time this administration was sworn into office, around mid-September, there was a huge crisis in this city arising out of terror gangs of youths, knife-wielding, some armed with pistols, other crude weapons, terrorizing people, robbing people day and night in many parts of the country. We have been able to contain that problem in Nairobi drastically by change of command, but also by change of strategy and deployment, by using special units within the National Police Service. And by and large, I think I am happy that crime has come down by nearly more than 60%, if not more, based on the statistics we are getting, and that matter is under control. But we are also aware there have been some criminal gangs terrorizing people in Nakuru, a gang called Confirm. We have been able to neutralize that threat because 3-4 months ago, it was a real menace. We've been able to arrest the ringleaders, and some of them have been arraigned in court. And right now, I think the situation is under control, and I can also report in the process we had to change again the command of Nakuru County to make sure that we inject fresh leadership and a new team, because sometimes when officers stay in one area for some time, they become a bit lethargic, and that's why we have a policy that no officer, no commander should stay in one station for more than 3 years, to allow them not only serve the whole country and the variety of the entire country, but also to ensure that they don't get involved in local communities and start being lethargic and not become the professionals they are supposed to be. The strategies, therefore, that we are applying to deal with this problem of organized gangs include intelligence-led investigations, which are working very well. But unfortunately, the downside, Honorable Speaker, is that intelligence-led investigations take a little time. But whenever we zero in on a suspect, we have enough evidence, enough intelligence, enough evidence that can be able to help us deal with the core of that issue. In fact, this is the approach we are using in the area issue of banditry. As we speak, we have on our radar very, very high-ranking suspects within the banditry networks. We believe we have enough information, and perhaps once we start striking on the network, the thing will come down. But you know, we needed to take a bit of time to be sure that we have the right information that can help us nip the problem in the bud. Other than that, we are investing heavily, Honorable Speaker, on special units so that to allow police on general duties to concentrate on general maintenance of law, of order. But where you have organized crime, organized gangs, banditry, terrorism, trafficking in drugs, and other sophisticated crimes, we are using formed units, including the Rapid Deployment Unit, including ASTU for livestock, the Anti-Stock Theft Unit, including SOG, the Special Operation Group, which has done a great job in neutralizing some of the most complicated security threats, especially in the counter-terrorism effort, and also including SWAT, which is the Special Weapons team that deal with urban close-range crime prevention and crime combating. And we have SWAT teams for men and women officers who do not operate in uniform, and they are really helping us a big deal in containing urban crime. And based on the information that the member has raised about Kagumo town, I am going to personally discuss with our police command in Kagumo so that we put in place a program to make sure that, as we have done in Nairobi, as we have done increasingly in Nakuru, we also exterminate that criminal gang before it takes over Kagumo town, because this country must be a country where citizens are free and they are not living under the terror of criminals. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, CS, for the elaborate answer for the two questions. Mr. Speaker, this question came a while back, and I want to confirm to the CS that after this issue came, when it was mentioned here in Parliament, the guy, Laban, has already been arrested, and Kangware people are happy. He has been arrested. He was arrested on Monday. That is Easter Monday. So the court will deal with that case. On the other issue, I want to commend the CS, Mr. Speaker, because I went to his office personally, and we discussed issues about Kagumo, and so far, the OCS who had overstayed has so far left the station, and even the OCS for another area in Kanyekine called Mutito, who has also left. On the other question, there were a number of series, as the CS is saying, there were serious criminals, especially in the Kagumo area. They were breaking into businesses, and this was immediately after the elections. But I want to confirm that this has so far gone down, and we are happy with the work we are doing, Bwana CS. I don't have any other question. I thank you.
Yes, those are just comments. Kikaria.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank Waziri for the information that he has given, and I want to confirm. It is true, the activities of the confirmed gang has been brought down by not even 60%, almost to 70%. Honorable Speaker, I can confirm we don't have even a single death in the last 1.5 months. But my question that I want to ask Waziri on this confirmed gang, Honorable Speaker, is that maybe, I don't know if he has a record of the number of deaths caused by these knife-wielding gangs, because they carry a knife always, and they strike using the knife, including two of our very good rugby players who lost their lives around 3 months ago. So maybe if he has a number of the deaths which have been caused by this criminal gang. Secondly, phones are involved because whenever they strike, they get your phone. And the people who are attacked normally report to the police station for police to be able to follow up on these phones. Then, and that would be a better way of following a phone that has been stolen, and you can be able to reach to the people who committed that crime. And maybe the reports which have been done, how many phones have been recovered in the process so that they can be able to arrest the people. Even if you bought a phone, then you must have bought it from somebody, then you give that information. Lastly,
thank you. That's enough. Okay, give him the mic. One supplementary, Kithure.
Yes, the very last one. Honorable Speaker, is about police officers. The station where this, because the operations of Confirm is normally on the southern part where we have a police station called Bungeni. And that police station, Honorable Speaker, is notorious about the police officers who collude with these criminal gangs to be able, I've heard they just change the command, but they leave the actual policemen who have become, so what action other than the command at the station? Because the police officer who has come now, the OCS, is doing a tremendous work. So what happens to the officers under him, who are the main culprits who are involved in collusion with this gang? And the very last one is, if I have information,
No, I'll give the floor to Honorable Mawade. Honorable Gikari, you have had 3 bites.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to thank the CS for having appeared here today so that we can be able to exchange with him or rather answer our questions. First of all, I want to ask the Bwana CS, are you aware that on Thursday, March the 30th, a 17-year-old high school student by the name Master Ezekiel Macau of Double Vision Secondary School was shot at Pipeline Estate, a resident of Pipeline Estate. On the same day, also, a 16-year-old boy by the name Master Stephen Mwau Muthusi was hit with a tear gas canister on the head, admitted at Kenyatta National Hospital, and succumbed to the injuries and taken to the city mortuary, burial permit number 0416790 at the city mortuary. And what are we doing about the officers that shot these 2 young individuals? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Women Rep Isiolo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is a very specific question that concerns the commitments made by the Cabinet Secretary during his visit to Isiolo County on matters in security. First of all, I would like to thank him for making an effort to go to specific places where we've been having a challenge with insecurity along the border. That is Garissa, Wajir, and Samburu area, where it's becoming a security hotspot. We may be enjoying a relative peace at the moment because of the drought situation that has existed before, but now we are getting out of that with the blessings of the rain. Most expected scenario will be, there will be hate. We currently seeing could be deceiving. So my question, Cabinet Secretary, is to speak to the specific commitment you made in the area called Mlango, bordering Samburu County, an area called Yamicha, bordering Wajir County, and an area called Korbesa, bordering Garissa County, where we've had so many people killed and a lot of livestock taken. You promised you will put up a formed unit there. It could be a buffer zone where you ensure that such kind level of killings will not happen in the future. Where are we with that? Secondly, on the issue of KPR.
One at a time, I gave you an
KPR, Mr. Speaker, I'm finishing. On the issue of KPR, that could be very useful to our people. Where are we on that in the case of Isiolo? And for your criteria for operationalizing the sub-counties, the 80 sub-counties, could you also add the level of insecurity as one of the criteria to be considered to let counties be operationalized in that order? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Kamket.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the appearance of the CS today in Parliament should be the beginning of our return constitutionally to the old system where cabinet secretaries are members of Parliament. Because indeed, we have been speaking to each other as Parliament without the presence of executive.
Honourable Kamket, I've given you an opportunity to ask a supplementary
yes,
question
I
or
am,
to make a speech.
Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, you will indulge me because earlier on, some issues were raised about even my constituency. But I would like to ask the Cabinet Secretary, number one, could the Cabinet Secretary consider reviewing the curfew orders to exclude trading centers that are, in order not to lose the largely peaceful populations, the trading centers in my constituency? Number two, Mr. Speaker, given that so far there has been no policing value or even deterrence value of roadblocks, could the Cabinet Secretary consider reducing the roadblocks to make them as friendly as possible so as not to marginalize further the marginalized constituency of Tiati? And finally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this floor to invite the Cabinet Secretary very politely to Tiati. I have seen him looking at Tiati from a binoculars in some instances. I would like to invite him and take a visit, and perhaps he will come back with a better view of that marginalized constituency. There are, finally, sorry, Speaker, there are some gazetted administrative units, and there are others which we have proposed in order to bring government as close to the people as possible. And could he make a commitment on the floor on whether that is going to be done in the shortest time possible, including the Tiati Central Sub-County? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Saidi Poster. Give the mic to member for Galole.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, Tana River leaders had a meeting with the CS about 2 months ago. And in that meeting, the CS promised to give NPR from Tana River guns. But we have not seen those guns up to now. I want the CS to tell us when we are getting those guns. Tana River borders Lamu, and you know Lamu is a very volatile area in terms of security issues. So when are we getting those guns for our NPR? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Zamzam.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Mimi nina swali kwa waziri. Kwanza nikupongeze kuja leo bungeni kutusikiza. na swali langu linaenda hivi: ikiwa sisi kina mama tunazalia watoto wetu hospitalini, kisha tunapewa ile notification, na kisha baada ya hapo kupata birth certificate ya mtoto inakuwa ni shida. Mimi nauliza, kwa nini usitufanyie wepesi pale pale hospitali, iwe mtoto akizaliwa anamaliziwa pale pale anapata birth certificate hospitali? Na kisha nikiangalia upande wa Pwani tunapata shida sana kupata certificate, na sisi tumekuwa marginalized muda mrefu. Mimi nataka niulize, kwa nini nakuwa Mpwani ama yule wa North Eastern anaambiwa lazima alete birth certificate ya babu, ya nyanya, ya nani, wakati ni Mkenya, pengine wale wazazi walikuwa ama babu walikuwa hana hiyo. Hiyo imetusumbua sana katika Pwani, na tunauliza kama waziri utasaidia vipi wakazi wa Pwani na kina mama kwenye birth certificate? Asante sana.
Mama Zamzam, hilo swali tulimalizana nalo zamani sana. Sasa tuko na swali la mageng ya uhalifu. Mupe, ilikuwa inakuasha?
Hilo swali limenuasha kwa sababu ndio utata ulioko ndani ya Pwani, kwa hiyo sikupata mwanya, nimepitilizia hapo. Asante Bwana Spika.
Asante mami. Yes, Honorable. Yes. Ni Professor. Okay. Yes, ask your question, Mheshimiwa.
Asante. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is on the same. Igembe Central, we were promised NPRs. The guns were promised. So far, we've not got any. And the area also is marginalized. Insecurity cases are very high. Drug trafficking from the centers around Kiotene. This issue has been discussed. We requested that place be moved into a police station. Nothing has been done. Also, this area where there is a lot of insecurity, where we requested for the GSU camp, we have not received the results or the report. Could the Minister please respond on that and advise the way forward? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Last question of the day, Edith Nyenze. Gikaria, what is out of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This comes out of what the immediate Speaker, Mheshimiwa, has just indicated. Honorable Speaker, it's about the implementation of Waziri coming here, the commitments which are done. I had intended to ask towards the end, but that is yours so that you can give us direction, Honorable Speaker, is that the Committee on Implementation is the one that takes up these matters once a commitment has been done. And I don't know whether we have any members of the Committee on Implementation for them to be able to be picking up what the Minister is committing to do, like what you have just said, that it was promised and it was never done. So that is a work of a committee.
Gikaria,
I'm only asking. I'm sorry.
Something untenable. That is why we have Hansard, and that's why we have these officers sitting in front of the Speaker. Yes. Edith Nyenze, what is out of order? The chair cannot be out of order. Take your seat. Take your seat, Honorable Member. Edith Nyenze.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me take this time to congratulate the CS for the good work he's doing, especially on answering the questions. My concern is on insecurity. Especially, the question is whether the police officers would actually arrest their own. And there was a case in my constituency in February whereby a businessman was attacked together with his family. They were attacked by 4 people who were in the police uniform and they were armed. And actually they were beaten and left for the dead. Then they were taken to the hospital. Then after that, three of them rightly could identify one of the thugs whom they said, or whom they identified as a police officer. And this case was reported to the right places. They were promised that the four thugs would be paraded so that they can identify the people, but this has not been done. It has actually been reported several times. I know there is a poor, but still no one is taking any action. So my question is, what should be done? And do really police officers are arrested by their own?
Minister, indulge me to give two more. Lillian Kogo and the honorable member who was solicited by.
I thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, and I appreciate the Honorable CS and his team for coming to the floor of the House. Mine concerns administrative units in Rangwe constituency. Papa, as it were, there are very, very big administrative units that I want to bring to the attention of the Honorable CS. We have big locations that need to be subdivided. What needs to be done has been done from our part. Game East has one chief and an assistant chief since independence. Kotieno has a chief and an assistant chief since independence. There has been proposals for Nyachar, Rangwe Town, West Kotieno and East Kotieno. Central has a proposal to have Kabor. Game Sorika Chiena has a proposal also to have 2 sub-locations. Komolo, Honorable CS, has a proposal to have Komolo divided into 2 sub-locations, and West Game, we need Upper Kanyanjua and Lower Kanyanjua. Kindly, Honorable CS, I ask this question: when are we going to have these units put in operation so that the people of Rangwe constituency can enjoy close services of administrative units as other places? We also need more locations in East Kochia and also in Gongo area. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Moses Kirima, finally.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My humble question.
1 minute. Who is the member standing and raising the hand? Because of the light, I can't see you clearly. Okay, after Kirima, I'll give you the last shot.
First, I thank the CS for the way he has answered the questions candidly, and we are really satisfied that CSS was supposed to be coming to Parliament to answer questions. We have been having raw answers before. Then, Mr. Speaker, sir, my humble question is to the CS, to the extent that in my constituency and the surrounding constituencies in Meru County, we have been hit hard by hand and drugs menace. And at the same time, illicit blue. And that one is so much rampant around the Mount Kenya region. What is the CS doing to make sure that we stamp out these hand and drugs? Because almost in every market, you find a group of youths sitting down, and there are suppliers who comes in pikis, and these hand and drugs are not manufactured in Meru. They come all the way from Nairobi and some other areas. How do we do, or what is the ministry doing to make sure that we stop this transportation for them to be reaching the young men in our areas? They are becoming zombies. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, I have 2 requests which I have acceded to. Honorable Oyula from Butla, ask 1 question in 1 minute. Then I'll close with the Honorable Dr. Mwiti. And Honorable Mwiti, you don't have to stand to be given the opportunity, just sit. We must bring this to an end. Oyula, then Mwiti, then closure.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Then Mama Kwale. Yes. Go on, Oyula, one question.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to ask one question regarding insecurity emerging in Butula constituency. This is come about by the so-called gold diggers. We have an area in the constituency which has been invaded by gold diggers, and they come from all over the country. During the day, they are busy in their gold digging. In the evenings, at night, they attack the residents. And this is now becoming very serious. Can something be done to investigate this case and even stop that exercise of gold digging? Because if left now, it will go beyond control. Thank you.
Thank you. Mwiti, Dr. Mwiti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, let me take this opportunity to thank the CS for having sorted out the issue of the DCC in Aboget and Igoji, and also to thank the CS for having managed to secure the security between Tharaka and the South Imment where criminals are invaded. However, I would like the CS to tell us when he is providing the vehicle for the OSPD and Kobu, who is serving 250,000 and the 3 sub-counties. We are desperately in need of transport and also to manage the security. Thank you, Speaker.
Mama Kwale. Huyo ndio wa mwisho kabisa.
Mimi ndio wa mwisho.
Huyo ndio wa mwisho kabisa.
Basi nishukuru Mheshimiwa Spika. Nimshukuru Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kuweza kunipatia nafasi hii. Nimuulize Waziri wa Usalama wa Ndani. Kwanza pia nimpatie kongole kwa kuweza kuchaguliwa kama Waziri wa Usalama wa Ndani. Pili pia nimshukuru kwa kuweza kuitwa mbele ya bunge hili na kuweza kutii amri. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nimetoka kaunti ya Kwale. Mimi ndio mama Kwale. Namuuliza Mheshimiwa Waziri, pale Kwale mimi nina shida ambayo imeibuka. Shida ya vijana wanajiita vijana wa vipanga. Vijana wadogo sana, vijana wa miaka 13 mpaka miaka 17, 16 hapo. Vijana wanauana wenyewe kwa wenyewe. Vijana wanatumia madawa ya kulevya ambayo yana msisimko fulani ndani ya mwili, inamtuma kijana kwenda kumuua mwenzake. Wanaweza kuwa wamekaa mahali pamoja wakinywa kahawa na wakageukiana wakakatana mapanga. Nina idadi ya vijana ambao wameuana kutoka mtaa mmoja hadi mwingine. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna sehemu inaitwa mahali nilizaliwa, Ngombeni Ward. Ina vijiji takriban vijiji 27. Lakini kijana hawezi kutoka kwa kijiji kimoja kwenda kwa kijiji kingine, aidha kwa kutembea au kijana wa bodaboda kutoka kijiji kimoja kwenda kijiji kingine, kwa hofu ya mauaji ya wenyewe kwa wenyewe. Na polisi wetu wameshindwa kudhibiti hali ile. Mheshimiwa Spika,
swali ni lipi?
Sasa mimi nauliza, wizara ina mipango gani Mheshimiwa Spika ya kuzuia uhalifu huu? Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Thank you.
Asante sana Mama Jen Kihara. You have twisted the chair into giving you the last chance. If it's about Nakuru criminal gangs, Gikaria has very efficiently asked questions. Yes.
Yes, I know. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I sat there on intervention. I thought you just wanted to hear about bandits. We don't have bandits in Naivasha. Yes. Mr. Speaker, I wish to ask the minister whether he knows that there is a notorious Kenya Coast Guards who guard our inland Lake Naivasha, who have been killing our youth right, left, and center and drowning them, because when they go to look for their livelihood. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the minister whether he can consider withdrawing the Kenya Coast Guards from Lake Naivasha and leave it to the fisheries department to guard their fish. Otherwise, these people have killed so many youth, they have drowned them, they are notorious, and I am not sure that is why we have Kenya Coast Guards, because this is an inland lake. They can be used elsewhere in the international boundaries. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, those are many, but they are short questions. You can give snippets.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, members, for the interest and for raising all these matters about your constituencies. Honorable Speaker, the information that was supplied by the member for Kulingana Central was about the arrest on Monday. I think our response was filed, I think, 2 days earlier. It was filed yesterday. It was prepared on Monday. That's why that had not been captured.
You should bask in the compliment and move.
And therefore, I wanted to thank the Honorable Kithure for that information. The member for Nakuru West asked about statistics. We can provide them, but not right now. Perhaps that's something he can follow up in the office or even through the parliamentary channels. But I also want to confirm to the same member that about 3 weeks ago, we arrested one of the top suspects of this gang. And in his possession were found nearly 600 phones. The excuse he gave is that this is a dealer in second-hand phones. He could not provide the evidence. We have charged him. But right now, all those phones are with the DCI. The Crime Research Intelligence Bureau is analyzing those phones. If they can help us, perhaps net a few more individuals. And therefore, I agree with the member for Nakuru Town West that the phones that are stolen can help us even track victims who are alive, who can even give us more information about who stole from them, and we continue tracking and finding these criminals and their command system. Honorable Speaker, I have also heard from the member for Nakuru Town West about the East, the Honorable Gekaria, about the Bungeni police station. We will follow up. But as I've said, the policy of government, which we are going to apply across the country, in every polling station across Kenya, every police station, every police post, no officer of whatever rank who has served more than 3 years will remain there. So not just for Bungeni, we are going to do it. It's going to be across the country. If you have served in a station, in a police post for 3 years, it is time to go. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the question raised by the member for Embakasi South, with regard to the 2 deaths, I will need to establish where the investigations are on those 2 matters. But as I said earlier, if these deaths are related to the protests, it will be unlikely that police officers have been used to engage with live ammunition, because the policy of this administration is that they can use other methods of crowd control but not live bullets. So we will have to find out where investigations are on this matter and perhaps reports. And the member is free to visit us in our office. My colleagues are here, the PSs and other senior officers will support you to find justice for your constituents and make sure that those matters are taken up to conclusion. We have nothing to hide. And we have told our police officers that any officer who uses their firearms to enforce law and order and to defend themselves from being hurt by criminals, dangerous criminals, in the manner in which the Constitution and the law allows, we will defend those officers everywhere and openly. Because also, we don't want our officers to be fodder for criminals. The same pain I feel when a citizen is killed by a police officer is the same pain I feel when a police officer wearing the uniform of our country is brought down by a criminal. So we will defend any officer who prevents a criminal from killing them or killing innocent people. But at the same time, we have told our police officers, all of them, all the ranks, any police officer who misuses firearms outside the law to kill, that officer will be on their own. In fact, government will be the one pursuing justice on behalf of those victims. So that is the policy position on the use of lethal force, especially by police officers. Honorable Speaker, there was also the issue raised by the member for Isiolo. I've been to Isiolo 3-4 times, and as I said, Honorable Speaker, we are trying our best to make sure that we address security challenges on the ground where they happen. The country is big. We've only been in office for 5 months. I want to assure you, Honorable Speaker, that after a year, I don't think there will be any part of the country, any constituency where the minister and my colleagues in the senior leadership of the ministry will not have come to assist you as leaders and your people to tackle your problems about security. We are on the way. It's only that we cannot be everywhere, and we have only been in office for a very short period of time. In response, therefore, to the question raised by the member for Isiolo County, the Honorable Mumina, we are ready to establish the formed units for Mlango and Yamicha as promised. I have been ready for the last 2 weeks. I contacted some of the leadership, and I was advised because of Ramadan, we do deployment immediately after Eid al-Fitr. So I want to promise concretely that within a month, we'll have formed units in Yamicha and Mlango to make sure that we don't have the incidents we've had there. I also want to commit that also we'll establish the Corpesa police post also within the same period of 1 month. Honorable Speaker, there was also, of course, the issue of NPRs. We've had challenges with because the deployments that we need to do now were not in last year's budget. So we had to stagger the deployments a little bit to allow us factor in budgetary provisions. And therefore, where you have delays in some of the places that have been raised, it is because of budgetary constraints. But every commitment that has been made will be met. We did not make any commitment just for the sake of it. And therefore, I will again expedite and prioritize the commitment for Isiolo. I know, Honorable Speaker, I can mention also there is a request from Marsabit, which was raised by Honorable Didaraso about that area around Marsabit town. Again, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will have deployed because of the unique circumstances that the Honorable Member and the leaders from Marsabit raised. Honorable Speaker, there was also the question which was raised by the member for Tiati, the Honorable Kamket, who correctly stated that he saw photographs of the minister looking at Tiati on binoculars, although he has no evidence, Mr. Speaker, that the minister was looking at Tiati, because he was not there. He just saw a picture and binoculars, but I assumed maybe I was looking at Tiati because, I think he is correct to assume so, because I am yet to visit Tiati. I'll be in Tiati on Tuesday at Chemolingot, and I will visit and stay around for a while. I'll also be visiting Elgeyo Marakwet, Lamu, and Busia, and also I'll also be visiting Tana River and Baringo. It's going to be quite a heavy schedule. By the time we meet here next time, some of these problems will not be there. The Honourable Speaker, therefore, with regard to administrative units, we will prioritize again, as asked by the member for Isiolo and the member for Tiati and a few other members. Insecurity is going to carry some weight in determining which of the pending sub-counties and administrative units should take first preference, even as we roll out to make sure we operationalize all the gazetted administrative units in the next 3 years. So that will be a big factor. That also answers the question raised by the Honourable Member for Rangwe. And we will factor in also regional balance, as I said, so that the first batch will have every region of Kenya represented, the second batch the same, the third batch, and so forth and so on. A very fair criteria which will be available for public information. Honourable Speaker, there was a question also raised by the member for Imenti Central, the Honourable Kirima, on drugs, and this is a problem in many parts of our country. Big problem in the larger central Kenya. Government has put in place a stakeholder roadmap generation program to make sure that we get lasting solutions, starting with Nyeri this Friday for about 4 or 5 counties. From there, we'll go to Nakuru, again, 4 or 5 counties involving the South Rift, including Bomet, Kericho, Narok, and Nakuru. After that, we'll go to the coast, where this problem also is there. After that, we'll come to eastern part of Mount Kenya, Meru, Embu, Tharaka Nithi, and we'll go on, including, we need to have a conference in Wajir, because there's evidence and intelligence about the transportation of hard drugs and narcotics from neighboring countries through Moyale into Marsabit, and sometimes through Wajir, and then converging somewhere in Isiolo. And therefore, that area also there's a problem of drugs and psychotropic substances. We are going to roll out a program nationwide, and it is going to be more vicious than even the fight against bandits, because the danger to our country's future and the generations to come that these drugs and substances are causing will live with us for a very long time. So we are going to be vicious and make sure we tackle this problem. Honourable Speaker, the other question was raised by, again, member for Tiati on roadblocks and exclusion of certain market centres. Honourable Speaker, I would like to inform the House that I will be reviewing the orders on Friday, and therefore I encourage the member for Tiati to submit his request to the office by close of business tomorrow, because by midnight on Friday, I'll be reviewing some of those orders to adjust depending on the experience we have had and the feedback we are getting, and will accommodate any legitimate request that helps us not to stifle the economy, but at the same time we don't expose the country to security threats. Honourable Speaker, the member for Galole raised issues about Tana River. It is true, Honourable Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior made commitments about NPRs in Tana River, but I have told you why up to now we have not deployed because of budgetary constraints. But when I visit Tana River within the next 2 weeks, we'll find a way of perhaps giving you a small number, even as we wait for the June budget to be able to give you a full deployment. Honorable Speaker, that's okay, Honorable Speaker.
2 minutes for you.
The other one left is from the Honorable Edith Nyenze. She asked whether a police officer can be arrested, and the answer is yes. Where there is evidence, we disarm them and arrest them. And we do that all the time. And therefore, I invite the honorable member to give us a formal complaint or a request on what needs to be done. Honorable Speaker, there were questions raised about vehicles. Member for Imenti South raised an issue about Nkobo OCPD. And I think, again, that's a genuine request among so many others we are having. We'll be able to procure, through leasing, another 200 or so vehicles, which we are going to distribute fairly across the country, and Kobo OCPD will be part of that benefit. And essentially, every OCPD should be able to have a vehicle, and also other police stations on a need basis. Other than that, Honorable Speaker,
Touch on the Coast Guards on Lake Naivasha for
on the Coast Guard, Honorable Speaker, on the Coast Guard, we have had a command problem because the Coast Guard is not part of the Navy. Coast Guard is a police function. Their work is to enforce the law within Kenya's territorial waters, which means 12 nautical miles off the baseline of the Indian Ocean, and all inland waters, including Lake Naivasha, Lake Rudolph, Lake Turkana, Lake Victoria. But we have had a command issue there because the leadership has been with the military, and because of the disciplinary discrepancies, the head of Coast Guard has not been directly responsible to under the command of the Inspector General. And that has had enforcement issues. It has been resolved. And today, His Excellency, the President has appointed a senior police officer to be the Director General of Coast Guard. That senior police officer will be responsible directly to the Inspector General of Police. Then the other agencies now, including the military, can second other officers, KRA, and other enforcement measures. That has been resolved, and that's why perhaps for Naivasha, we have not been able to enforce because of those command issues. Today, in line with the Section 17 of the Coast Guard Act, that command issue has been resolved. Finally, the issue of the GSU camp in Gembe Central, I think that I can also make that commitment within the 1 month commitments that I have made, because I know we have resolved the issues that were outstanding. Other than that, Honorable Speaker.
The small boys killing each other in Kwale, have you touched on that?
Yes, I would like, I do not have that information, and I thank the Honorable Member for bringing it to my attention. I request, as we've done in so many other cases, including the cases I've spoken about Isiolo, the cases I've spoken about Marsabit and other parts of our country. Honorable Speaker, the reason we have been able to address these issues, Kirinyaga Central and everywhere else, is we've been meeting with the leaders, including members of parliament. And I am done with almost 3/4 of all the counties. There is a small number remaining. I commit to be meeting with the leaders from those counties in the next few weeks. So I encourage the member for Kwale to formally write and say what it is, so that it becomes the genesis of developing a program to resolve that emerging gang in Kwale there that can grow into a big problem in future. Other than that, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for your courtesy. It has been, I've been outside Parliament for five months now or more, 6 months, so I'm in the cold. So it's quite warm to be back among old and new colleagues. And I must thank you for your hospitality and kindness. And I want to apologize if I have not been as available as I ought to be. will try and improve and work together with you as elected leaders to deliver the vision of a safe Kenya and a country where the leadership responds to the needs of the public. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. You may take your seat there. I have a request from the chair of the committee that oversees your ministry. Honorable Tongoyo, we have exhausted our 3 hours. We have only about 4 minutes left. So I'll give you 2 minutes to say what you want to say.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will try to finish what I wanted to say. The 2 minutes allocated. Mine is first to congratulate and commend the Honorable CS for Interior and Interior and Government Coordination for being the first to appear before this House to answer to these questions of members. And true, Mr. Speaker, he has really done it well. I'm sure from the majority of the questions asked by members, he has really answered them satisfactorily and clearly well. And this confirmed the wisdom of His Excellency the President to have the standing orders amended to allow the cabinet secretaries to appear in this House to answer members' questions. I'm sure he has really set the bar so high. I'm sure the rest of the cabinet secretaries appearing will really have a little bit of hard time to match up. Mr. Speaker, from the interest generated by members, inform the importance of the matter security in this country. And I want to personally take this opportunity to thank the CS, whom I've worked so closely with since he was appointed. And I can confirm that I think he's the only cabinet secretary who has never traveled out of this country because he has been always attending to the matters of his matters of this country. And he has actually demonstrated that he has even managed to have traveled to almost every part of this country. So he's a very dedicated officer, he's a very dedicated minister. And there's been a complaint from members of this House that majority of cabinet secretaries hardly respond to their request, to their phone calls, but Professor Kindiki has been an exceptional. So I want to commend him, and Kenyans have got high hope, and I just want to ask him to keep the pace because Kenyans have got a lot of trust in him. Mr. Speaker, as I near to finish, what has been asked by these members touches their constituencies, and they were talking on behalf of their members they represent. But one thing stood out. We have a very committed, dedicated, more focused cabinet secretary, but resources has been always a problem. I want to challenge these members to help the ministry and the CS in particular to help him able to accomplish matters related to securities in this country by helping wherever you can, either legislative, either resources allocation, more so even using our NGCDF to put up police stations, administrative units, because that will help the ministry with the little resources they have to cater for the most urgent ones. Yes. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to say thank you so much, but just 1 minute. Just add me a minute, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, as I finish, the CS talked about the issue, the very, very emotive issue of security in this country. And I know it has been a challenge, mostly on the North Rift, and members are convinced that the government is taking all it can to address it. Bwana CS, you've talked about the majority of the criminal activity in this country, and it's true, crime is a crime, either perpetrated or done by our police officers, or a criminal gangs, or by bandits. And the misuse of firearm should be taken so seriously. I even personally have a situation whereby the NPR, working as rangers in my own constituency, Mr. Speaker, used the firearm that they were given to shoot to the innocent headers that were actually just going about their own businesses.
And
the matter is under the investigation of IPOWER and the CID, but should it be found necessary, we can able to even escalate to the CS to take action, even if it is actually recalling their firearms.
Thank you, Honorable.
So thank you so much, Speaker, and pongezi sana Waziri. I'm proud of you.
Time up. Murugara, what is the issue? I was
Thank
going
you.
to give the majority leader 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. The majority will take 2 minutes. I will take only 1 minute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to thank my constituent, the Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki. Those who may not know, is actually a constituent of Tharaka constituency in Tharaka-Nithi County, and congratulate him because he's done a very, very, very good job, a perfect job in terms of answering the questions from the members. And this is exactly what we've been asking for. Now it does look like this is what we are getting. So we are happy, even to the members, for having amended the standing orders, because with this now, I think we are closely interacting with the government the way a legislature is supposed to interact with the government. Very well done, Professor. Thank you very much.
Owen Bayer, on behalf of the majority leadership.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, first I want to thank you for midwifing this process, that this process came through your hands, and now we are here oversighting government and introducing new levels of accountability. Honorable Speaker, what I would like to commend is that from the majority side, both the majority and minority have a responsibility to oversight government. And I think this was a pure and good display of the same. And I want to say, but also to thank you, Honorable Speaker, for sitting there for 3 hours to midwife this process and ensure that, I think we need to give a thumb to the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you've done tremendously well. And I also want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for a good job. But note that when we come here, we are members of Parliament oversighting government. And I think this is the President's dream, to ensure that we hold Cabinet Secretaries to account. And also to tell the other Cabinet Secretaries to come prepared next time so that they can handle. Professor Kindiki has set the bar very high, and the others that will come will need to take it to another level. And I also to thank all the other members. Today the quorum was very good, Mr. Speaker, very good. I think this is very good Parliament, and Parliament is moving a notch higher every day. I thank you. Asante sana.
Honorable members, that brings to a closure of our question time. An innovation under our 2010 Constitution and amended standing orders. To the Minister, Professor Kindiki, you have come well. You have set the bar reasonably high for your colleagues to follow. You can see, Minister, that the docket you hold is actually the nerve center of the peace and security of the country. The number of questions that have been raised by members on the floor, even the supplementaries, indicate very clearly that you have your job cut out. You have to move the length and breadth of the country to ensure that there's adequate policing, proper policing, police adherence to the law, non-violation of any people's rights, but above all, to capacitate the police to do their job in terms of equipment, in terms of mobility, and to remain accountable to the people's representatives that sit in this house. You've done very well. I congratulate you, being the maiden appearance by any cabinet minister. And I hope your colleagues who are watching to see how well you perform, so that when they come, we expect nothing less from them. Thank you very much, and you are released to go back to your office. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, extension of period for consideration of a special motion on approval of appointment.
Yes, call the Deputy Speaker. Who is coming, Bandit? Yes, Farah. The chairperson The Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. Honorable members, remember that if business is to be prosecuted in the manner we envisaged, you are sitting up to 9 p.m.
It's a procedural motion. Thank you. So you just will second me. You just say thank you. You say I second. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Section 13 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011 relating to the extension of period of consideration of nominees for appointment to a public office, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of a special motion relating to the approval of a nominee submitted by His Excellency the President for appointment as the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission by a period of 14 days from 12 April 2023, which is today. Mr. Speaker, allow me to explain the reasons for this procedural motion. And the reasons are that on Wednesday, the 5th of April 2023, the Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs vetted a nominee to the position of the chairperson, Ethics and Anti-Corruption, by the name Bishop David Oginde. Unfortunately, Easter holiday set in, and the committee was not able to retreat to do a report. Yesterday, there would have been a meeting, but again, there was a parliamentary group meeting on the part of the Kenya Kwanza coalition. Thus, the committee has not been able to do the report and requires 14 days, maximum 14 days. It may do it within a shorter period of time, which will be the better. But a maximum of 14 days for us to do the report and table it to this House. The report must be informative. It must be to the required standards. It must be in consonance with the work done and delivered by the Justice and Legal Affairs Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. So therefore, I appeal to this House to actually agree to the extension of time for a period of 14 days so that we are able to produce the report and bring it to the House. With those remarks, I beg to move and request the Honorable Member for Baringo North, Honorable McClap, to second.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Okay. Honorable members, pursuant to the provisions of Section 13 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011 relating to extension of period of consideration of nominees for appointment to a public office, this House resolves. Honorable members, I now propose the question. Order. I now propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Section 13 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011 relating to extension of period of consideration of nominees for appointment to a public office, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of a special motion relating to the approval of a nominee submitted by His Excellency the President for appointment as the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission by a period of 14 days from 12 April 2022.
There being no need for somebody to debate this, I now put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Section 13 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011 relating to extension of period of consideration of nominees for appointment to a public office, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of a special motion relating to the approval of a nominee submitted by His Excellency the President for appointment as the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission by a period of 14 days from 12th April 2022. As many of the opinion say aye. Aye. As many of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, the Political Parties Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 35 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Political Parties Act 2011. Order number 10, the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 36 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act 2017.
Next order.
Order number 11, special motion, consideration of nominee for appointment as member of the National Gender and Equality Commission.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Social Protection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that, taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Social Protection in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as a member of the National Gender and Equality Commission, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, the 11th April 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 250, Section 2 of the Constitution, Section 11(7) of the Gender and Equality Commission Act 2011, and Section 8(1) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of Dr. Margaret Karungaru as a member of the National Gender and Equality Commission. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Article 250(2) of the Constitution as read with Article 11 of the National Gender and Equality Commission Act 2011, His Excellency the President notified the National Assembly of the nomination of Margaret Karungaru as member of the National Gender and Equality Commission. The Honorable Speaker, via a communication made on 10th March 2023, conveyed to the House the message from His Excellency the President and subsequently referred the name of the nominee, her curriculum vitae, and the report of the selection panel on her nomination to the committee to conduct the approval hearing. Honorable Speaker, in compliance with Article 118(b) of the Constitution and Section 6(4) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act number 33 of 2011, the Clerk of the National Assembly placed an advertisement in the print media on 20th March 2023 informing the public of the nomination, date, time, and place of the approval hearings. The clerk also invited the public to submit memoranda by way of written statements on oath, or rather affidavits, on the suitability of the nominee in conformity with Section 6(9) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act number 33 of 2011. And at the close of the submission deadline, the committee had not received any memorandum contesting the nominee's suitability. Mr. Speaker, the Clerk of the National Assembly also wrote to the Kenya Revenue Authority, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the Higher Education Loans Board, and the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, seeking references and background checks relating to the suitability of the nominee. The nominee appeared before the committee on Wednesday, 29th March 2023 for vetting. The committee examined her suitability based on the criteria set out in Section 7 of the Political Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act number 33 of 2011 and Section 10 and 11 of the National Gender and Equality Commission Act number 15 of 2011. And in addition, the committee examined her academic credential, relevant experience, knowledge of sector issues, and on leadership and integrity. Mr. Speaker, during the approval hearing, the committee also paid due regard to the procedure used to arrive at the nominee, any constitutional or statutory requirements relating to the office in question, and suitability of the nominee for appointment proposed, having regard to whether the nominee's abilities, experience, and qualities meet the needs of the National Gender and Equality Commission. In this regard, the committee observed as follows: that the nominee holds a bachelor's degree in education from the University of Nairobi, 1979, and is pursuing a master's degree in arts at the international relations from the University of London, Queen's Mary College, which is ongoing. The nominee also holds an honorary doctorate degree from Kingdom University International Community Service and Development, USA. The nominee attended Kiamwangi Primary School, Nyeri, Sacred Heart Primary School, Kieni, Embu, and Alliance Girls High School, where she sat for her O-level and A-level examinations. The nominee has worked in various capacities, including 1986 to 1987 as lecturer Kagumo Teachers College in Nyeri, 1989 to 1995, headmistress Nyakiambi Girls High School in Nyandarua, 1985 to 1988, deputy headmistress Moi Girls High School, Kamangu, 1984-1985, teacher at Solian Girls High School, Baringo, 1981-83, teacher at Stare Boy Center, and 1980, a teacher at Ngara Girls High School. The nominee meets the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on Leadership and Integrity, having obtained clearances from the following statutory bodies: the EACC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Kenya Revenue Authority, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, and the Higher Education Loans Board. The nominee has not been charged in any court in the past 3 years. Mr. Speaker, the nominee does not hold office in any political party, and Mr. Speaker, the nominee has never been dismissed from office under Article 75 of the Constitution for contravention of the provisions of Article 75(1), that is conflict of interest, Article 76, financial probity, and Article 77, restriction on activities of state officers, and Article 78, Mr. Speaker, on dual citizenship as a requirement of the Constitution. The nominee, Mr. Speaker, demonstrated knowledge of topical, administrative, and technical issues touching on gender equality, freedom from discrimination, and the functions and operations of the National Gender and Equality Commission, and has the requisite abilities, qualifications, and experience to serve as a member of the National Gender and Equality Commission. Mr. Speaker, in light of the foregoing, having conducted the approval hearings for the nominee pursuant to Article 250 of the Constitution, Section 10 and 11 of the National Gender and Equality Commission Act 2011, Section 3 and 8(2) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act number 33 of 2011, and Standing Orders 45 and 216, the committee recommends that the National Assembly approves the appointment of Dr. Margaret Karungaru to the position of member, National Gender and Equality Commission. I now beg to move this motion and urge the House to adopt this report, and now request the Honorable Suleika Harun, Member of Parliament, to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The nominee has met all the requirements. She has the relevant work experience for this position. She also has the required qualifications and have all the required compliances for this position. The nominee also has shown leadership and problem-solving skills. She has also expressed her passion for social work in the community. She also shown the ability to fight gender inequality and women inclusion in decision making. She has also informed the committee of her experience in the teaching fraternity as a teacher in different schools. She has served as a head teacher for different girls' schools. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion. Thank you.
Honorable members, I now propose a question that taken into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Social Protection in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as a member of the National Gender and Equality Commission laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, the 11th April 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 250, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, Section 7 of the National Gender Equality Commission Act of 2011 and Section 8, Subsection 1 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011, this House approves the appointment of Dr. Margaret Karungaru as a member of the National Gender and Equality Commission. I think you have established a tradition, probably in the last 10 years, in which on such weighty matters, you have to have a quorum before you can then take the decision as a House. I'm informed of this by none other than the people who hold the institutional memory of the House. So under the circumstances, I think you ring the quorum bell and get sufficient members into the House to be able to approve this. Not when the quorum bill is ringing. I have ordered. Now I order Sergeant at Arms, ring the quorum bell. The Honorable Owen Bayer, get your party whip here, majority whip here, to whip the members to come. Honorable members, when you decide to ask the chair to put the question and you don't have a quorum, then you must have thought about it. And the rules have since changed in the last 10 years. When I was here last time, unless a member stands and raises up the issue of quorum, we never used to have a problem. The Speaker, sees nothing and hears nothing until he's told. But now I'm told that you have changed the rules since. You must have a quorum to be able to make a decision or resolution of the House on such weighty matters. Under the circumstances, the bell is rung. Go and whip your own members to come back here and constitute the requisite quorum. Honorable members, when the bell is ringing, the rules are very clear. No member is supposed to go out except the whips, except the ones who are whipping. My presumption is that my good, able Deputy Speaker and Owen Bayer are going to go and whip members. That's what she told me. So proceed. Go and whip members.
Sasa yeye kama andiki yake tutafanya nini? Nimwambie. Yeah. Sawa. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sawa sawa. Kesho itakuwa. Okay.
Other honorable members, we have ascertained now we have quorum, and let's continue with the debate. Order. Yes, Honorable Elachi, you want to contribute? Proceed. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we put the question, I think the important thing is just to bring back the House so that we can understand why we are putting the question. Mr. Speaker, I want to support the motion and to indeed support Dr. Margaret. This is a woman who has worked in this country with women for many years. And indeed, as we go to pass her, I know she's going to do a fantastic job. She's going to ensure now we start hearing back the Gender Equality Commission, which at the moment is a bit low. But now, Mr. Speaker, the other thing is that even as she goes there, we want to awaken the commission that it is time they also come out to start again their work that they were doing, fantastic jobs that they have been doing in this country. And we pray that also they will find a budget. And with those few remarks, I beg to support.
Yes, the honorable lady member, Rosa Buyu. Proceed. You want to contribute? Order! I have an obligation to protect the minority who want to contribute. That is how the standing orders proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity and for protecting what you call the minority. Mr. Speaker, I just want to support the motion and say that Dr. Margaret is indeed qualified for this position. And Mr. Speaker, I hope that by the time she finishes her term, the term boy child is suffering will be a thing of the past. We know that gender commission has always been associated with the female, but gender refers to both female and male. And currently we hear cries from the boy child. And I ask and urge Dr. Margaret that when indeed she takes on the role, she will actually put the boy child at par with the girl child. With that, I support the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Other honorable members? Since
the Speaker cannot be out of order. Put the question.
Honorable members, I now put the question that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Social Protection in its report on the vetting of a nominee for the appointment as a member of the National Gender and Equality Commission laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, the 11th April 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 250, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution and Section 11, Subsection 2 of the National Gender Equality Commission Act of 2011 and Section 8, Subsection 1 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011, this House approves the appointment of Dr. Margaret Karungaru as a member of the National Gender and Equality Commission. As many have to appear and say aye. Aye. As many have come to appear and say nay. The ayes have it. Order. Next order.
Order number 12, motion, ratification of the agreement between Kenya and the United Kingdom on defense cooperation.
Honorable Speaker, let me say that I really want to thank this House for the robust debate that we had yesterday on this DCA between Kenya and the United Kingdom. I've taken note of what the honorable members of this House have raised, particularly on subsequent agreements that this House will be making. And I will not want to tire this House with more stories because we've debated at length on this matter. And Honorable Speaker, let me just also equally on the same breath thank my committee and the entire team that participated until tabling of the Defense Cooperation Agreement. We hope that this agreement will now foster further the relationship between Kenya and the United Kingdom and continue to operate in a quid pro quo kind of arrangement where both countries will substantially benefit from the exchange of a defense program amongst other support that we continue to have from the government of the United Kingdom. And we urge that all the officers that come and train in our soil should continue adhering strictly to the law of the land, protecting the environment as has been envisioned and captured in our report, and making sure that the rule of the law is followed to the letter. Honorable Speaker, with those very few remarks, I beg to reply.
Honorable members, I now put the question that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations on its consideration of the agreement between the Government of the Republic of Kenya and the Government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on defense cooperation laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, the 21st March 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 8, Subsection 4 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act of 2012, approves the ratification of the agreement between the Government of the Republic of Kenya and the Government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland on defense cooperation subject to the following reservations. Roman 1, Article 6, Sub-Article 5 of the agreement be amended by inserting a new paragraph immediately after paragraph H to include murder as one of the offenses which are under the jurisdiction of the host nation. And Roman 2, Article 23 of the agreement be amended to include corporate social responsibility. As many have to appear and say aye. Aye. As many have come to appear and say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 13, motion, ratification of the African Union Treaty for the establishment of the African Medicines Agency, AMA.
Yes. The chair of the committee, National Committee on Health.
Honorable Speaker, I move the motion that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on held on its consideration of the ratification of the African Union Treaty for the establishment of African Medicines Agency, AMA, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 21st March 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 8.4 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act 2012, approves the ratification of the African Union Treaty for the establishment of the African Medicines Agency. Honorable Speaker, the African Union Treaty for the establishment of the African Medicines Agency, herein referred as the AMA Treaty, was adopted by the 32nd Ordinary Session decision of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government on 11th February 2019. The AMA Treaty was signed by the Cabinet's Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Alfred Mutua, on 16 February 2023. The AMA Treaty establishes the African Medicines Agency, AMA, as a specialized agency of the African Union. AMA is intended to enhance the capacity of state parties and regional economic communities to regulate medical products in order to improve access to quality, safe, and efficacious medical products on the African continent. It is aimed at retracing the weak regulatory systems that have resulted in the circulation of substandard and falsified medical products in many African Union member states, causing risk to public health, harm to patients, and undermining confidence in healthcare delivery systems. AMA will work closely with the AU, World Health Organization, African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that is Africa CDC, and other United Nations agencies. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Article 2(6) of the Constitution, treaties or conventions ratified by the Kenyan government form part of the laws of Kenya. Ratification is the international act by which the state signifies its consent to be bound by a treaty, that is Section 2 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act number 45 of 2012. As the only body that wields legislative authority to make provisions serving the forces of law, pursuant to Article 4(5) of the Constitution, Parliament decides whether a treaty shall form part of the laws of Kenya. A treaty, therefore, only becomes binding on the country after it has been approved by the National Assembly. Section 12 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act 2012 indeed emphasizes that a treaty cannot be ratified until it has been considered and approved by both the Cabinet and Parliament. In this regard, pursuant to Section 8 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act 2012, upon approval of a treaty by Cabinet, the relevant Cabinet Secretary is obligated to submit a treaty together with a memorandum on the treaty to the Speaker of the